My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 32 years old, and this is how I took revenge on the man who used my pain to build his empire and the sister who watched me drown in silence. I never thought my whole life would change in a single voicemail. It was a Friday night, the kind that smells like rain and chamomile. I was in my small apartment in Chicago, barefoot, making tea, wrapped in the kind of silence that makes you feel safe, the kind of night where nothing is supposed to go wrong. And then my phone buzzed. It was Mason, my fiance. We'd been together for 6 years, laughed in this kitchen, fought in this kitchen, kissed in this kitchen. The sound of his name lighting up my screen was supposed to feel warm. But that night, it didn't. I pressed play on the voicemail. His voice came through, trembling, but not from fear, from something else. Urgency, guilt. Claire, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you, but I'm in love with someone else. It's Maddie. I didn't drop the kettle. I didn't scream. I just stood there, frozen, water still boiling in my hands like time had stopped mid-sentence. Maddie, my younger sister, the same girl I helped raise when our mother couldn't. The one I gave everything to, my money, my energy, my trust, the one I would have taken a bullet for. I sat down, phone still in my hand, and stared out the rain-streaked window like the answers were written there. Somewhere between the streetlights and the storm, the tea went cold. So did I. There was no grand reaction, no immediate tears, just a kind of numbness, a sharp, quiet void where something used to live. But here's what I didn't realize in that moment. That voicemail didn't just break my heart. It flipped a switch. Something inside me, something I didn't even know was there, quietly woke up. Not rage, not revenge, not yet. Just clarity. The kind that shows up uninvited when you realize the people you trusted the most were holding the knife the whole time. And in that stillness, with the rain tapping against the glass and betrayal echoing in my ears, I knew this wasn't just a heartbreak. It was an origin story. Mine. I grew up protecting Maddie. We weren't just sisters, we were survival partners. Our dad walked out when I was 9 and she was 3. No note, just silence and the sound of my mom sobbing behind the bathroom door for days. After that, things got unstable. Mom had her good moments. She could make a killer French toast when she remembered. She'd dance in the kitchen to Stevie Nicks and kiss our foreheads like she meant it. But she was also the kind of woman who needed mothering herself. She forgot to pay bills, picked the wrong men, and sometimes disappeared for a day or two when life got too loud. So I stepped in. I brushed Maddie's hair before school. I made sure she ate. I faked Mom's signature on field trip slips. And when Child Protective Services knocked, and they did, more than once, I taught Maddie how to smile just right and say, everything's fine. Because if we told the truth, they'd split us up. And I couldn't let that happen. By high school, I was juggling honor roll, part-time jobs, and raising a child who called me sissy, but looked at me like I was her whole world. And I played the part. I had to. When I got a scholarship to Northwestern, it felt like the universe finally said, okay, Claire, you get a shot now. But even then, I couldn't leave Maddie behind. So I brought her with me. I transferred her to a better high school, took out student loans, worked late night shifts at diners and tutoring gigs just so she could have a normal teenage life. I skipped parties. I skipped sleep. I just wanted her to be okay. And then I met Mason. He was nothing like the guys who flirted for fun or chased broken girls just to fix them. Mason listened. He asked real questions. He saw that I wasn't just some over-functioning older sister. I was building something. When I told him about my idea for Haven, an app to help trauma survivors track their healing, find vetted resources, build community, he said, "Let's build it together." Those 4 words lit up my world. It wasn't just romantic, it was visionary. I finally had someone who didn't just admire my strength. He wanted to amplify it. So I let him in, fully. I trusted him with my stories, the dark corners of my childhood, the nights I cried into my own hoodie so Maddie wouldn't hear. I trusted him with my passwords, my savings, my roadmap for Haven. We built everything together, the wireframes, the branding, the pitch decks. He even quit his job to work on it full time. Said he believed in it more than anything he'd ever done. And I believed in him. Maddie, by then, had finished college and was in that post-grad fog where nothing sticks. She moved back in with us, said she needed time to figure things out. Of course, I said yes. She was my sister. Mason was always kind to her, supportive, protective even. I thought they had a good bond because of me, because we were a family. I thought wrong. Looking back now, I can see it. The way her laugh stretched a little longer when he was around. The way he'd glance at her when he thought I wasn't looking. The way she'd pick fights with me over nothing, just to leave the room with a dramatic sigh and make me the villain. But I didn't want to believe it, because believing it meant accepting that the 2 people I love most, the 2 people I'd built my life around, were capable of gutting me from the inside. So I ignored the signs, until that voicemail, until Mason's voice cracked with guilt, saying her name like it was a confession and a surrender all at once. "It's Maddie," he said, like it explained everything. And in a way, it did. They didn't just steal my heart. They stole Haven. Within weeks of the betrayal, I watched the launch of the company I built go live without my name. The branding, my design, the content, my words, the features, the pain maps, the community tiers, the trauma log tools, all mine. They didn't even bother to change the tagline. And there she was, front and center in their glossy new promo video, Maddie, in her soft sweaters and perfect lighting, talking about resilience, like she hadn't burned the bridge I built for her from scratch. They erased me, but I didn't cry. I documented everything, because when people take everything you've given them and leave you with nothing, you don't just disappear. You rebuild, and then you bury them with the truth. A week after the voicemail, they went public. It was a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in bed with my laptop, still trying to breathe through the slow-motion implosion of my life. I hadn't showered in 2 days. There was a tea mug from the weekend still on my nightstand. My inbox was flooded with questions from former colleagues and partners. "Did you leave Haven? What's Phoenix Reach?" I didn't know what they were talking about until I opened Instagram. There it was, Maddie and Mason, standing at some sleek tech gala in LA, holding hands like a power couple. She was wearing the navy jumpsuit I helped her pick for a job interview she bombed last year. He was in the tailored suit I bought him for our first investor meeting. The caption read, "Proud of this man and what we're building together. #Phoenix Reach, #healing forward." Grateful. What they were building. I clicked the tag and felt my stomach drop. Phoenix Reach, their shiny new startup. The logo was a phoenix rising from fire, almost identical to the mock-up I made on Figma 6 months ago, but cleaned up, as Mason would say. The tagline was mine. The copy was mine. The mission statement, exactly mine, just with Maddie's voice pasted over my pain. And the back end, they hadn't even changed the framework, my code, my trauma mapping algorithm. the non-profit structure I built with pro bono legal help, all of it stolen and refiled under Mason's name. CEO, Maddie. Creative director, like I was a ghost. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't even move. I just stared at the screen and let my breath slow until it felt like I wasn't breathing at all. And then I got up. I changed into jeans and a hoodie, walked to their new apartment, the one Mason and I had looked at together but couldn't afford when we were still trying to grow Haven. Funny how quickly that changed once my name was off the papers. I knocked. Maddie opened the door. Her hair was curled. She had a wine glass in her hand, like she wasn't expecting her entire karma bill to show up on the front porch. She smiled. Oh, Claire, this is awkward. Is it? Behind her, Mason appeared, holding a laptop, probably mine. He didn't even look surprised to see me. He just blinked and said, Claire, you shouldn't be here. I stepped inside anyway. I saw your launch, I said. You used everything, my designs, my writing, my code, Mason. You just slapped a new name on it and deleted mine like I never existed. Maddie sipped her wine, looked me straight in the eye and said, You were never going to make it big with your soft sob story angle, Claire. Mason and I knew how to position it. That's what this needed. Strategy, not sentiment. Her words landed like slaps. Sharp, clean, deliberate. She didn't stutter. She didn't flinch. She meant it. And that's when I saw her for what she really was. Not a broken little sister. Not someone I needed to protect. But a woman who knew exactly what she was doing and had been waiting for this moment for years. Mason didn't say much, just stood behind her, the same way he had stood behind me for 6 years. Only now, his silence didn't feel like loyalty. It felt like cowardice. I left without another word, walked out of the apartment, the one I had once paid rent on, with nothing but a USB drive in my coat pocket and a rage I didn't recognize pulsing through my spine. That USB held backups, early versions of the platform, time-stamped notes, emails, investor decks, everything we'd built when we were still we. They thought they were clever. They thought erasing my name from the paperwork erased me from the story. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't a victim. I was the architect. They didn't just steal my fiancé, they stole my labor, my identity, my life's purpose. And that's when I made the decision. If they could build something on my ashes, then I'd rise higher, and I'd burn them both down. But I wasn't going to scream about it. I was going to be smart, strategic, and unforgettable. Revenge didn't come quickly. It came slowly, like learning to walk again after a car crash. At first, it was just about surviving. I moved in with an old college friend, Sierra. We hadn't talked much in recent years, but when I called her and said, "They stole everything," she simply said, "Come here." Sierra worked in PR, crisis management, brand rehab, corporate fallout. She knew how the big boys played dirty. And more importantly, she had always believed in my app. Back in our college days, she was the first one who said, "Claire, this is going to change lives. Just don't let anyone water it down." She cleared off a corner of her living room, pushed a lamp over, and handed me her Wi-Fi password. "This is your war room now," she said. I slept on her pull-out couch and coded all night, night after night, until the silence stopped echoing like failure and started feeling like focus. I rebuilt everything from scratch. No copied code, no recycled UI, nothing they could claim. But I didn't just want to rebuild. I wanted proof. Proof that they stole my work. Proof they didn't just break my heart. They broke the law. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started dating Mason's rival. His name was Joel Stratton, a venture capitalist who once tried to invest in Haven before Mason ghosted him after stealing his pitch deck for another deal. Joel had a long memory and a longer list of grudges. He was older, smarter, sharper than Mason ever pretended to be. Joel liked my fire. I liked his access. We met for drinks, then dinners, then long nights where he'd scroll through databases with me, hunting down paperwork Mason had filed. He found the trademark for Phoenix Reach, a single brand registration under Mason's name, but there was no filing for the source code, none for the original IP. And Maddie? She had zero legal stake in the company. She wasn't listed on any board, no equity, no contracts. She was just there, a curated image, a pretty face for PR, a woman in tech headline. That meant everything I'd built, from beta design to user testimonials, was still mine. If I could prove origin, I could sue for fraud. And more than that, I could take it all back. Joel helped me file for provisional patents on my new build. Sierra coached me on how to frame the narrative. But even with their support, I felt alone in a way I had never felt before. Because the betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal. Mason had gone full PR mode, pushing out press releases about starting fresh, doing interviews where he subtly implied I'd walked away from Haven because I couldn't handle the pressure. The real dagger? He copied testimonials, my testimonials, from early beta users and slapped them onto Phoenix Reach's landing page, word for word. Stories of trauma survivors who had trusted me, who wrote to me, who said, "This saved my life." They used them like marketing fluff. Meanwhile, Maddie posted a video that made me physically ill to watch. She sat in a soft-lit studio, hair in loose waves, talking about female empowerment through tech, how she'd always dreamed of creating a space for women to heal. Every line stolen from the pitch deck I wrote, from speeches I gave, from pages of my journals Mason had once read aloud to me in bed and called brilliant. They weren't just stealing my product, they were selling my pain. And yet, I didn't break. I cried. Yes, sometimes at 3 a.m. in Sierra's bathroom with a towel shoved into my mouth so I wouldn't wake her. But I didn't break because I had something they didn't. Truth. Every email, every timestamp, every design file backed up to multiple hard drives, including the USB I walked out with the day they tried to erase me. Sierra and Joel helped me craft a plan. We called it the Floodlight Strategy. Phase 1, build a new brand, not a rebuttal, a revolution, something sharper, something cleaner. I called it Root Light, a platform for healing that centered truth, transparency, and story ownership. The code was mine. The users were real. The mission was personal. Phase 2, gather allies. I reached out to original beta users, the ones whose testimonials had been stolen. I told them the truth, showed them screenshots. They were furious. One woman, a domestic abuse survivor, cried on Zoom and said, "I trusted them because of what I said to you." I documented everything. Phase 3, light the match. I pitched Root Light to a podcast that focused on tech ethics and female founders. The host, Harper Lee, was no stranger to scandal. She'd taken down billion-dollar startups for less. I gave her everything: files, emails, testimonials, recorded calls with early funders. She called it the most calculated identity theft I've ever seen in the startup world. We timed the episode to drop on the same day Phoenix Reach launched their first paid membership tier. I remember the morning it went live. I sat on Sierra's couch in my robe, coffee in hand, watching their website traffic tracker. Yes, Joel gave me access. Plummet. The podcast trended #1 on Spotify. Screenshots flooded Twitter. Root light truth trended within hours. Then came the press inquiries. The tech journalists Mason used to charm started digging. They found the same gaps Joel did. Maddie's fake claims, stolen data, lifted quotes. The story spiraled fast. From Reddit threads to Medium exposés to full-blown coverage on TechCrunch and The Verge. But I stayed quiet. No interviews, no comment, no revenge post, because this wasn't about clout. This was about correction. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted accountability. And in their panic, Mason and Maddie gave it to me. He posted a Notes app apology, full of vague phrases like mistakes were made and we take intellectual property seriously. Maddie deleted her Instagram within hours, but I wasn't done. Because the final phase of the floodlight strategy was a lawsuit, a class action IP and defamation suit, built on every stolen testimonial, every duplicated code snippet, every lie they told investors and users. Joel funded it. Sierra helped me write the public statement, and I sent it out with one line burned into the footer. You don't get to steal a woman's pain and call it innovation. My plan was simple. Drop the truth in front of the right eyes at the right time. No screaming, no dragging, just exposure. Clean and undeniable. On the 1-year anniversary of Phoenix Reach's national launch, the date they had paraded my stolen vision across the tech world like it was born from their brilliance, I gave them a new headline to choke on. I released a short film on YouTube. It was called The Girl Who Built the Fire. Not a takedown, a testimony. Shot in one day with a filmmaker friend Sierra knew from a crisis campaign. The film was raw, stripped down, just me and my story. I didn't name them. I didn't have to. The internet connects dots faster than justice ever could. The video opened on my hands, sketching the first prototype of the trauma tracker that would later become Haven. I included voice notes from Mason during our early brainstorms, him saying things like, "Your brain is the real engine here," and "We couldn't do this without your story." I showed my wireframes, dated, watermarked, synced to GitHub. Code I uploaded from a hospital waiting room when Maddie had surgery, and Mason didn't even visit. I layered in screenshots of pitch decks, dated Slack messages, emails with timestamps, and the NDA Maddie signed when she first saw my beta. The background score? My actual heartbeat, recorded through a biometric sensor we used to test user feedback in the original trials. It wasn't just storytelling. It was evidence, dressed as art. Within 24 hours, it hit 1 million views. People didn't just sympathize, they rallied. Founders reposted it. Survivors commented paragraphs. A Reddit thread dissected every second. Someone created a timeline matching my footage to Mason's interviews and Maddie's speeches. Word for word plagiarism, dressed in pastel power suits. The pressure came fast. Mason called me at 2:13 a.m. 3 times. I didn't answer. The 4th time I picked up. His voice was shaking. The calm CEO mask cracked wide open. "Claire, we can fix this. We can do a joint statement. Just, this isn't the way." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "You should have called before you made me disappear." Click. Maddie texted me that same day. Just 4 words. "This isn't fair, Claire." Fair? Fair was feeding her when mom disappeared for 3 days straight and CPS knocked on the door. Fair was letting her crash in my apartment, rent-free for months while I covered her Uber rides, job hunts, therapy appointments. Fair was not stealing the very thing I built to survive and then branding it as her personal journey. I left her on red. 2 weeks later, I filed the lawsuit. Joel connected me to a legal team that made headlines for suing billion-dollar companies over IP theft. They took one look at my evidence and said, "We're going nuclear." We filed under intellectual property theft, defamation, fraudulent misrepresentation, emotional distress. Public sentiment flipped faster than I expected. Journalists dug deeper, found the fake testimonials, the ghost-written interviews, the influencer deals Maddie signed using fake survivor stories. One platform dropped her within 48 hours. Another demanded a public apology, which never came. She disappeared from social media within a week. Mason's board released a vague statement about transitioning leadership. Their biggest investor pulled out, citing ethical concerns. PR firms stopped answering his calls. And Phoenix Reach, dead on arrival. Their App Store ratings tanked. Users demanded refunds. A whistleblower from their dev team went public with a Medium post titled, "We Built a Lie." But the best part? I launched my app under its original name. We Light. No rebrand, no compromise, no fake gloss. Just the original mission to help survivors track healing, own their story, and connect with real trauma-informed tools. The launch trended on day one. We hit 100K downloads in the first week. App Store featured us as best new mental health tool. Real survivors sent messages saying, "I've never felt seen like this." Therapists reached out to partner. I then buy influencers. I then pay press. The story sold itself. Because when you strip everything down, the betrayal, the spin, the polished lies, what's left is the truth. And it always shines brighter. The night We Light went live, I sat in Sierra's living room, champagne in hand, tears on my cheeks. But this time, they weren't from grief. They were from clarity. Because I finally understood. They hadn't broken me. They'd revealed me. Mason and Maddie tried to build a kingdom on a stolen foundation. But you can't plant flowers in soil soaked with betrayal and expect them to bloom. They took my fire and thought it would die in their hands. But I wasn't the girl they discarded. I was the woman who built the match, struck it twice, and lit up the sky. I didn't do it for the money. I did it for every girl who was told she was too emotional to lead. For every woman who stayed quiet in meetings while men repeated her ideas louder and took the credit. For every survivor who was told, "You're too damaged to build something real." I did it for the version of myself who used to sit on the bathroom floor, thinking maybe the world only respected the polished kind of pain, the pain that didn't make people uncomfortable. And I did it for the ones still sitting there. When the dust settled, the lawsuits filed, Phoenix Reach dissolved, and the press had moved on to its next scandal, I took a breath for the first time in months. A deep, full breath that didn't hurt. We Light was thriving, not just as an app, but as a movement. We built community forums for survivors to support one another. No algorithms, no gimmicks. We hired real therapists, trauma educators, coders who had lived through hell and still showed up with grace. It wasn't perfect. It was human. We weren't chasing disruption. We were creating repair. And people noticed. But I stayed behind the scenes, quiet but not hidden. My face wasn't on the homepage. There were no viral reels of me crying into the camera. I didn't need to perform my story anymore. I had already lived it. And that was enough. A few months after everything imploded, Maddie sent me a letter, a real one, handwritten, no return address. It wasn't an apology, it was a justification. She wrote, I thought you were too broken to lead something that mattered. You were always the fixer, Claire. But I didn't want to be someone who needed fixing anymore. I wanted to matter on my own. She talked about being tired of being the little sister, about feeling like she lived in my shadow even when I was the one holding the flashlight. She said Mason understood her potential in a way no one else had. There was no mention of betrayal, no regret, just a letter soaked in rationalization. I didn't reply because closure isn't something someone else gives you. Sometimes closure is the letter you don't write. I realized something in the stillness that followed. Some people think revenge is about getting even. It's not. It's about reclaiming your voice and then letting them live in the silence they created. The silence where your name used to be. The silence that echoes every time their fake empire gets mentioned in past tense. I don't hate Maddie anymore. That would mean I'm still giving her space in my story. I don't hate Mason either. He'll probably resurface in someone else's startup, spinning a new version of integrity. But that's not my concern. My concern is us, the women who were never meant to rise, the ones who were told, don't be so loud, don't take it personally, don't make a scene. We're making scenes now, we're directing them. And the fire they tried to kill in me, I used it to light 1,000 others. We Light is no longer just an app. It's a reminder that even after the deepest betrayal, even when they bury you and build something on your back, you can still rise. Not in revenge, in truth. Because when you stop waiting for an apology, when you stop explaining your pain to people who never intended to understand, that's when you become dangerous. That's when healing becomes power. I started this journey trying to get justice. I ended it by reclaiming myself. And that's the most satisfying revenge there is. Now, when I walk into rooms where decisions are made, I don't shrink. I don't apologize for taking up space. I don't dilute my story to make other people comfortable. I speak clearly. I ask hard questions. I leave paper trails. Because I've learned that being underestimated is a kind of power, but only if you survive long enough to turn it into strategy. And I did. I survived. I don't wear what they did to me as shame anymore. I wear it like armor, not because I'm proud of the betrayal, but because it reminds me of something most people forget. No one can steal your fire unless you hand them the match. They thought I was fragile. They thought they could borrow my brilliance and erase my name, that I'd walk away quietly, too broken to fight, too exhausted to rebuild. But I didn't walk away. I burned the blueprint they tried to sell and built something stronger, something honest, something mine. And now, when I see other women trying to claw back their voices from the people who muted them, I tell them what I needed to hear back then. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. You are not too emotional. You were just surrounded by people who wanted your light, but not your truth. Take it back. Build louder. Stand taller. Because surviving betrayal isn't just about justice. It's about becoming someone they can never erase again. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 32, and they thought they buried me, but they didn't know I was the ground.